Interbranch, there are some sexual and medical offenders of kids are recorded also with the FBI and also and courts family members with the same house slash S with medical offenders foreign and domestic. These are also people tied to them with some Jew themed syntax and with some other religious like Catholic nutbags that are nutbags with their use of religion and religious spots that are criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw, and their roles with news locations next to those spots, and names connected next to the spots of campuses that are connected with predicate acts with the court, switching and forging names, refusing to get on paper, and they have collusions with WFSB, totally fake Connecticut's Channel 3 News, fake conversations with me, and with me with fake conversations with other people as their roles with mixed organized crimes with the same fake news articles. And then, two, in that, they have World Trade Center predicate acts. They also attached me to fake conversations with themselves and others about the World Trade Center while they were forcing a child abuser leader of kids with sexual and medical offenders who are involved with a bunch of Jew themed and things like with a Brian Silver, a bunch of people tied to a Brian Silver, a prosecutor is involved with a Paul Zano planting Jew themed saying Jew to my neighbor Ray Colo, increasingly involved with people with a Brian Silver and people with Hartford Hospital, like with the Leahy family, involved planting wire crimes and falsified police reports with Wethersfield police chiefs and sexual and medical offenders of kids and overt criminal enterprises tied to Hartford Hospital and Trinity College with in Hartford, Connecticut, and Central Connecticut State University in New Britain, Connecticut, increasingly with intelligence families on my street and with the streets parallel involved with them, increasingly with predicate acts at campuses. You need to get them on paper, one name and sequence. And one of them I only saw one time in my life, my other neighbor, Ryan, and then he was changing his last name from Khaleesi to Lewis, and there are people with the new name Lewis involved too, with some untimely deaths, with a Robert Rodriguez from another area who made a confession and demonstration on my street, also as police did, with some retired police chiefs involved with intelligence families near me. They've been putting fake conversations with kids in databases at the Wethersfield police station and with people with police departments intercities and people at Hartford Hospital and other hospitals involved with the same house slash S with interbranch forging and switching names, refusing to get onto paper. There are all kinds of digital crime acts and methods with investigators. On a mass scale, there are also some Jewish themed people with the Board of Education that with the name Riley themed. There are also repeated a Jewish teacher I had when I was a sophomore repeated sexual things about a girl that lived next to me per her and her sexual roles with someone and Mike Demain has roles with that too, with some Jewish themed confessions and demonstrations about his roles. I never saw in my area. He's involved planting evidences on my street with people from other areas, and people from other areas on my street tied to him, and people on all sides of my house with fire departments involved with them with other countries, and Fox Connecticut News and the buildings next to them are involved with some child offenders. And these are people with some calling it attacks on themselves, and they just fake the response if you don't give them a response. They're putting fake ties and fake natures of ties to people. You see them blaming things on lobbyists rather than on the actual predicate acts or the actual, they're sequence shifting. They're refusing to follow mandated law. They're changing and faking what people say when we speak about the worst impositions, even on all locations, non distinctly. We all have the same things to counter, but let alone Hartford, Connecticut, sickly distinctly from Wethersfield, Connecticut. The founding locations there and when Hartford and Wethersfield too, they have other communicated. Then our founders communicated to have communicated for themselves about those locations and about how everyone was using James Madison's plan and counter extorted the other presidents and the other founders and the other founders as the other colonists and the other Native Americans. But there are proofs that Native Americans were behind the plural part of the founders, plural, behind James Madison's plan that directed us to understand them as him singular and his plan. And then they went and got George Washington counter extorted. No one is even allowing anyone to be honest about the extortion of George Washington as he asked us, separately from this, because we're supposed to separately know too. Before that extortion, also the counter extortion of himself by James Madison, the founders behind his plan. That was where the unity and the leverage came to counter extort, even to an extent, the internationally monitored conversations and the people at the locations like Webb House, now renamed the Webb Stevens Museum, still then and now further with narratives tactical terror from what our founders communicated about those founding locations and about why and how they had to leave slavery and entrenched northern colonies and southern colonies because they were still being tortured, extorted, and packed human nature enslaved to an extent beyond their control. Specifically, too, to measure and maintain everyone's self-valued roles with it against themselves and against everyone else, syntactically, therefore physically more and more. Otherwise, that body was sensed. Even once he was a president, too, James Madison still didn't have free speech. We're supposed to, one can't explain the Monroe Doctrine sanely or accurately, you know, without explaining James Madison's plan and the founders behind him, which are Native Americans too. See, president slash chief. In other words, the Monroe Doctrine is everyone countering, extorting the rest of the colonists and the rest of the Native Americans. The Constitution is still abridged by black pupils. Period. Get them out on paper, one name in sequence. One shouldn't have to beg. In other words, they're using time pretending that doesn't count. They're offensively, in other words, I can't go to the police station. They attach me to fake conversation with them as a kid, now as an adult. They're refusing to identify themselves. With kids who went to my schools, I didn't have classes with them. They're recently putting fake things in databases, like these Mendez brothers involved with the Brit Superior Court, Hartford Courts, Connecticut Police, Weathersfield Police Department, involved with sexual and medical offenders with the campuses and their educators since they were kids. They should fear God now and hide and plot. No, instead of hide and plot, just fear God. Yeah, on paper, say sorry too, at least. And get me off of fake conversations with the Mendez police at the Weathersfield police station. Get them on paper, one name in sequence with the Brit Superior Court. Let me see these sick motherfuckers with Facebook too making a rape threat. That was before the principal child abuser was caught. And there are more people with more upscale pictures on Twitter and then on X incapable of responding to things but as collusions with them and with sexual and medical offenders of kids forced a mass medical corruption with the agencies. FBI has more scams with a handful of people than they have streets in Hartford and Weathersfield together with the names next to Hartford Hospital. All people with Isles Kitchen and Tomorrow's Market, where it used to be and where it is now, where it used to be next to Hartford Hospital. They have roles with some criminal enterprises, private ones, and their family members and neighbors with more sexual and medical offenders of kids. And people at Central Connecticut State University recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. They have roles of people on Morgan Street, Morgan Circle in Weathersfield, and Valley Crest Street, as the ones involved with people from my grammar school and middle school that I never even saw around there. And they're putting fake things in databases. They made a quick fake exception with a Joe DeMauro in the grammar school. Otherwise, I never saw them at grammar school. And the Heather Hansen and her boyfriends. I didn't see them at middle school. These are putting people fake things in databases with their educators. A Mr. Neville is increasingly involved with people all along Route 3 and the state judicial branch offices involved interstates with and all intercities with his family, with his neighbors. It's something to do with that shop near the Weathersfield Shopping Center, and like where there used to be a Omni place, and like that apartment there. What are they doing with the intelligence, criminally foreign influence with this Mr. Neville and his students, putting fake things in databases with him, and with sexual and medical offenders of kids years apart? Does he have anything to do with that besides his roles with the DeMoros with that, and with the people with the Hartford Hospital with that? Hartford Hospital has a Judge Killian involved with digital crimes with the FBI with them, and sexual and medical offenders with other courts, and some prosecutors changing and faking digital evidences, also with Whiting Forensics involved with Hartford Hospital with a bunch of people, intercities involved with this, and the World Trade Center, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusion drug. They should fear God to hide and plot. Get them on paper with Judge Napolitano too. Judge Napolitano, I asked you many times because since before you left Fox News. In other words, they're using war crime acts and methods. They won't get on paper. I told you they have people involved with violence. You guys are forcing child, all kinds of things you guys forced. And with the counters to it as collusions. Get them on paper, one name and sequence. Get them off the Diddy trial too. Have Comey say, apologize to, especially if that was him in the New Britain Superior Court. The FBI director, Robert Luskin, has Comey involved anyway. Many pray. And Diddy. And the World Trade Center attack.